fact that there was definitely times in college where I was handed a text that was definitely not at my reading level, and by that I mean it was far too high. It was definitely in some of my philosophy classes that this happened. And I can say right now that I became very disinterested in trying to get any kind of meaning out of that text at all. So when a kid is handed a text that it becomes more about decoding instead of trying to find meaning, which is definitely something that we talked about in Module 7 as well, when it becomes more about decoding and the decoding becomes the work, more than likely they're just going to check out. They're done. They don't want to do this anymore. This is really hard. This thing that they're doing, this seems way too hard. And they become discouraged, they get fussy, they might start to behaviorally act out, that kind of stuff. So it is very important that we pay attention to the reading level of the things that we're giving to our kids. One of the other things we covered in this module, we were asked to talk about the digital literacy level at the school that we teach. And personally, I don't teach in a classroom, but I can say that I did my undergrad the previous 4 years at Fordham University, and I can say that the level of digital literacy that was used or taught in the classroom was next to nothing. Let's see here. There was times where we were asked to read articles that were online, but they asked us to go and print them off of like a website that was online and bring them to class. Like there was little to no attention paid to the fact that we were living in a world where most of our information is sent out digitally now. The majority of the information that comes to us in our daily lives comes to us in a digital form, and that was definitely completely ignored for the 4 years I was there. So it's great to hear that teachers are now being pushed to bring that into the classroom, use it to teach, and they're definitely being pushed to be more aware of how kids best receive information. So, in Module 3, the first thing that we covered was the Education Week article about standardized testing. And I enjoyed this article because it gets me a little excited to at least hope that our education system is starting to pay attention to the things that aren't working instead of just trying to trudge through them and make them work. Personally, I've always seen standardized testing as at least a little bit ridiculous, if not a whole lot of flawed, and not just because I was a student taking them, but it just never seemed logical to ask every single person the same questions in order to judge their competency or their teacher's value or the quality of the school. You haven't really judged any of those things. You've judged the kid's ability to take your test or the teacher's ability to teach to the test. And sometimes that matches up with competency, sometimes it doesn't. So I was particularly excited to see things like the Khan Academy. I got to mention, and I personally think things like the Khan Academy, I think they're awesome. I think it's kind of a sign of this new age of free and open knowledge on the internet, like the Wild West of the information age. I think it's super interesting. So I found this article to be very interesting, and I'm glad I got to read it. So the next thing we covered in this module was just observing behavior, and we were given a video of a little girl who was asked to write a journal entry, and she started huffing and puffing. She said how much she hated it, and one of the things that we talked about was just triangulation, which is basically a method of learning more information about a student, and this pertained to the to the video because we were given this 2-3 minute video and asked, do you think she has a behavior problem? Well, all we received was a short clip of her behaving badly or behaving in an inappropriate way. We don't really know what she does the rest of the time, and this is kind of where triangulation comes in. Triangulation is basically a way to gather information from 3 different sources. One being conversations. Conversation, you can talk to the student, and it's less formal. It's you can sometimes get them to talk a little bit more. You can get it from products, which is basically like any kind of work that they do, quizzes, tests, projects, whatever. And then observations, which is what the thing that we did. We observed her. So all of these things put together should be used to put a more complete picture of a student together, and we can use this in order to make judgments about whether or not their behavior is an issue. So when we charted this little girl's behavior, we learned that there's 2 different ways to do it. There's frequency charting, which is more concerned with how many times a behavior is shown, and then the interval, which you break up the however long you're observing. You break it up into smaller chunks of time, and if they act out during that chunk of time, it's a positive basically. You mark it down that during that 10 or 20-second interval, she acted out. So you get more of like a percentage of the time versus a number of behaviors in a certain amount of time. And this has actually been surprisingly useful for me because, there's times when there's behavior, obviously, that annoys us as coaches, but we don't really know if it's just annoying us or if it's actually being disruptive. So this activity actually made me pay more attention to just how much time is being wasted on, say, walking to and from drills or questioning why we're doing something, so on and so forth. So this has definitely been put into immediate use in my everyday life. So Module 4 was very exciting for me because I did my first lesson plan, and that was exciting and scary, but mostly exciting. Finally bit the bullet and learned how to do a lesson plan. So, I did a lesson plan on bunting, and it was really the first time that I sat down and really planned how I was going to teach something. And I found it very interesting just looking at the logic behind things, placement, and I actually used parts of that sample lesson plan in practice a couple weeks ago. So that was very exciting. One of the things that I made sure to focus on in my lesson plan was just differentiating, because I do have a lot of different kids that learn very differently, and it's important that I teach in a way that hopefully hits everybody's style of learning at some point. So I made sure to do something for like the visual folks, do something for the kids that learn just by digesting the information, sheer amounts of like details. And I definitely also did stuff for kids that learn by doing like the kinesthetic learners. So that's something that I made sure to hit on. And it's something that I've made sure to hit on with every other lesson plan that I've done since then. Learning about the BDA, or before, during, and after method of lesson planning definitely made me aware of the fact that you can't just present a group of kids with a thing to read and then ask them to obtain anything from it. You have to sort of set up the reading, let them read it with a reading strategy, like reading with a pencil or reading out loud or something like that. And then afterwards you need to reflect, you need to bring them back onto the point of the reading. So you can't just expect them to digest it all in one go and expect them to take anything from that. So, Module 5. We started off by learning about the Socrative method. We watched some videos, and basically what the